Hello. Today at Gearhead Works, what we're going to do is we're going to install our new Tavor folding charging handle. Now this obviously replaces the factory unit here and gives you one that folds out so that it doesn't protrude, keeps your gun nice and slender and doesn't bump into things, bringing your bolt out of battery. Now when you receive your bolt handle, it's going to come in a package in pieces. You're going to get the slide, the handle, and 2 pins. Now this larger pin is actually a self-contained spring plunger unit. It's going to go down in this hole that's right here. All you got to do is drop that in there, and that's ready to go. This is going to be your hinge pin. Now it's a solid steel pin, it's not a roll pin, and after it goes onto the gun, we're going to insert the pin through the handle and the slide. So we'll get to that in a minute. Obviously, the first thing you got to do is clear your gun. Make sure you're empty, clear and safe. We're going to go ahead and pull our bolt carrier out, just so it's a little easier to deal with the handle. Then to get the piece off that has the handle made into it, you got to remove your forearm. Now if you've got a factory top rail or some other kind of top rail other than a Razorback, you'll need to remove your top rail too. The Razorback, particularly the short one, makes this very easy because you don't have to remove your optics or anything else. Remove the forearm. You want to pull your bolt back. We got to remove the sling swivel. So you got this cotter pin right here, and we keep our tab tool around, so it's real handy to do that. You pull this out. Then it's helpful when you unscrew this to stick something in the swivel hole on the back side. It keeps the bolt of the head from spinning so you can get this all the way off. That's all the way off. You can pull this out from this side. Now this will be loose. Get it so far, pop it out. Slide this piece out. Now this piece is all you're going to need for the rest of the installation. So you can set your gun aside. Now, there's a couple of ways to remove the factory handle. There's 2 roll pins. There's one right here, which you can see holding the plastic on, and then there's also one right here that holds the pivot portion to the rod. Now, I usually just remove this pin, but some people like to remove that one. They say it's easier. I don't know. I've not tried it. We'll see how it goes with here. I've not installed a charging handle on this gun yet. This is my personal Tavor, and it always seems to get the parts last. I think the biggest issue is making sure you have the proper size punch. If it's too big, it's going to actually get stuck and not drive the pin through. Right, so that was easy enough. Pull the plastic off. Now this will come out the bottom side. You will not reuse any of these pieces. So you can just simply stick it back together to store it in your box somewhere. Alright, now that we have this stripped, we'll go and we'll take our slide assembly. Obviously I'm setting this up so the charging handle will be on the left side, just like the factory is for a right-handed Tavor. If you were setting this up with the handle on the right side, everything would be on this side. Steps are the same though. Okay, so stick this through. We have our charging handle that has the spring detent in there already. We're going to line it up. Now the hole won't line up completely just by resting it on there because of that spring. It's going to encounter some spring tension there. Now, all you got to do is this pin will slip in 2/3 of the way. there's a flared out end, and you'll put the straight end in first. The flared end won't slide in. So just stick it in there, wiggle it until you get it to go through the slide. You'll have to compress the spring just a little bit, and then it'll pop through. Now, at this point, you don't want to beat this with a hammer because it can deform it, and that deformation will prevent it from going all the way into the handle. So you want a slow, easy press. Now, there's a couple ways to do it. Some people are using a C-clamp. Some people are using vice grips. I prefer a vice of some sort. So you get a nice, even, strong pressure on it. So what we're going to try to use is a little vise. Now this is just a small vise that I can use to demonstrate this with, but some of you will have a vise in your garage or whatnot, and the important thing there to do is to protect the finish on the part. Now if your jaw has teeth on it, you're going to want to put something that's smooth. This particular vise has smooth jaws, but I can still use a piece of cloth on each. This is just a shop rag or just whatever you've got to protect the finish of the handle. And you want to, this pin should end up flush on both sides. So that's going to go in and be flush, and when it's all the way in, it'll end up flush on this side. If it ends up just enough to where you can hook your fingernail on it or something, that's going to be good enough. It doesn't have to be all the way in to hold. This thing has a lot of pull power on it, so it prevents it from just coming out by accident. So I'm going to stick it in here. Then I'm going to start tightening. Now I've not actually used this vise before to try to do this, so we'll see how it works. Okay. So as you can see, that's in. Function check it. Should slide. Now different Tavors, this one has obviously been camouflaged and it built up the surface a little bit. But we found that our Tavors, our test guns, this slot actually varied a lot between all the different guns that we've tested this on. Even on one gun, the slot would be narrow on one end and fat on the other, or fat in the middle, or narrow in the middle, or something. So we tried to size the handle so that it wouldn't rattle, but wouldn't be difficult to operate for all of our guns. And that's it. If you want to try to seat that just a little bit more, I mean, right now I've got it to where my fingernail just barely catches on it. I'm going to leave it there. I think that that's fine. If you want to take it down a little bit more, you probably have to not use cloth on the pin side. We can try it here and see. And it's still sticking up just a little bit. I mean, that's going to be fine. I'm barely hooking my nail on it. You can see it's almost flush on this side. I'm going to call that good enough. And then that's it. This is installed. It's just a matter of putting it back on the gun. Now obviously putting it back on the gun, it's easier if you put the handle to the back. Get it slid in. Get your U past the flash hider here. Then pop these side pieces on. All the way back. Stick your sling swivel back in. Again, I like to hold that bolt down with something. and screw this on. That's it. You got to line up the slot for your cotter pin. Put your forearm back on. Obviously we're using a TMF here. I've got the light out of it at the moment. Okay, that much is done. Then you can function check. You put your bolt carrier back in. Bolt carrier's in. Notice how the charging handle curves around the front right here, and what that does is two things. It keeps you from bumping your bolt out of battery like the factory charging handle would do sometimes. You could bump that bolt handle and without a forward assist, it would open your bolt and you wouldn't be able to close it back without racking and ejecting a live round. But it also keeps a nice low profile. It doesn't stick out or anything. You can still hook it. There's an edge right there where you hook it with your finger. Notice it stays open. It's got a good positive detent. It doesn't flop around. If you want it open, you can flip it open. It's going to stay open. You can reach it with your left hand to flip it back down while you're holding the gun. And that's it. Once you got it all put together, you're ready to go load up and keep shooting. Thanks for watching. And of course, if you have any questions, you can email us at info@gearheadworks.com. And we look forward to hearing your feedback. Thank you.